All right, welcome to the Trenchless Table. I've got Dustin and Cole with me today. My name is Lee, and this podcast is started basically just to talk about the trenchless technology space, business, local community things, maybe some world stuff. Who knows? With Donald Trump in the seat, there's always stuff to talk about. So we can probably brush up on that a little bit. But we want to welcome you guys to the first episode, the real first episode of the Trenchless Table. We'll get into jumping the gun a bit with our installers, but just wanted to welcome you guys. So let's kick it off, guys. Let's talk a little bit about OBICcon.
Yeah, so OBICcon, as we just got through a couple episodes of installer highlights, that was during OBICcon. We were all here. We were all in Bryan, Ohio, HQ of OBIC. And so what better way to spend the time than to bring everybody in-house at the Trenchless Table and just hear a little bit about their story. But OBICcon in general was probably the best one to date. Mm-hmm. Well, only been around a couple years, but definitely the best one to date in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. We had a great attendance. A lot of people came around, well, from all over the country, but also we had one from Germany. So that was good to have Roland over. And I think that at OBICcon, people are really diving into the value of it, bringing people here to learn and grow their team. So it's not just a rah-rah session. It's really about adding value and how we can help them grow. And so I think this year was great because people invested in the time to come, and hopefully they got reciprocal value back out from being here with everybody. And honestly, what we do in the classroom is great, but it's the learning that happens when we're just collaborating. So we put a lot of space in it this year so people could just talk and have open conversations about, hey, Cole, what do you do? How does your job fit into this? And how do, not just about how we get better in the field, but a lot of young companies learning to grow and scale. So it was a great opportunity to get everybody together. It was fun. Look forward to next year. We got to figure out how to do it better, but that's always the challenge. Better every year.
So this was my first OBICcon with the company. How was it different? Let's compare it to like year one of OBICcon. What did that look like for you guys? Because I wasn't on board yet. And how did it differ from what we just saw?
Year one, I think it was just running on adrenaline. So we had an idea. We were going to bring everybody together to Bryan, Ohio, and add value. And quite frankly, a lot of it was how we build business, shoot from the hip. We figured out as we go. It worked. We added value. We had some hired leadership development people that came in and helped add value. So it wasn't just us talking. So we really, because of it being year one, we invested in the time, the space, and idea, but we didn't really have it fully developed yet. And so using our ideas from other trade shows and events that are held around the country, we launched and we tried it, and it worked. People find value in that. And then year two, it got a little bit better, and year three got a little bit better. And so the momentum of it bringing everybody together is real where the magic happens.
Mm-hmm. And just for reference, how many people were at the first OBICcon?
Oh, man. Maybe 30.
Okay. And I think this year we were just over 75 people. So
yeah,
it gives a little picture about, where we started and where we're at now. So one of these days we're going to hit over that 100 mark on OBICcon. That'll be fun. We'll probably have to find a bigger space for some stuff, but
it's a good problem to have. We continue. When we moved into town, it was a situation where, hey, let's move to town. We'll have all this space. We'll probably never outgrow it. And here we are today trying to figure out when we have 100 people show up for OBICcon next year, where we're going to have lunch at. That's going to be a real problem.
Yeah. And, since it was my first one, I got to meet Dudley for the first time. Mm-hmm. Really great guy, fun to watch, fun to learn from. I've never met a person more excited about polyurea than Dudley.
Yeah.
I mean, just we've got to have him come on sometime just to talk about it because the way that he talks about polyurea, I've never seen someone talk about it like that before. I mean, Trey's probably the closest one in our business, but yeah, interesting guy.
what do you call that? A labor of love, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't know what his full background story is. It'd be interesting to have him on and learn more about that and how he got into the industry. But bringing people like that in, getting everybody excited about it, and really teaching them how the ins and outs and tips and tricks. That's what the whole training was about. Mm-hmm. You know, this year we had 2 tracks. You kind of headed up the business side of it, where teaching them how to run a business in this space, which is kind of what this podcast is about a little bit too. We're going to get into business stuff, and it's not going to just be about, you know, when toilets don't flush, what happens. It's going to be about, okay, how do you build a business to help with when the toilets don't flush? You know, using that knowledge that you have from building your businesses, we now get to help other people in this space, our certified applicators, do that. So 2 tracks, business. Trey headed up the application side where we actually had the guys in here that were spraying. So just so everybody else has an idea of what OBICcon is, we run it like a school, basically. It's a little bit more than the conferences we go to as business people, and we sit in a classroom and watch PowerPoints. We really tried not to do a lot of PowerPoints this year, but unfortunately, it's the best way to show stuff. But
And I think the cool thing about OBICcon, or the best thing outside of the networking and just kind of getting to hear bits and pieces about what's working or what people have tried, is social media, where we all live on. It's so saturated with business savvy, business advice, sales this, tactics that, but there's nothing really tailored to our industry, specifically the coatings industry. And so I think what we do have, and you talk about bringing value, we do have the ability to bring our installers that span 16, 18 states, 20 states, something like that, across the country and then beyond, all in-house to do just that, to kind of fill in that gap of this information isn't out there for the masses. It's not out there at large. We're going to do our best to bring it to our installers to hopefully, you know, continue perpetual motion to go forward to not only grow each individual brand, but OBIC at large, to understand that you talk about a guy like Dudley Primo, who's super pumped about polyurea in general. Well, by the end of OBICcon, we're all more excited about polyurea and the opportunities that it provides as a coatings company, because we kind of got that bucket filled up that every other day of the week when you scroll through something, it's not really filled up anywhere else. So that was my biggest takeaway of, like, there is something cooking here, there is something boiling here that we need to keep kind of feeding the engine on, because it's just not being done anywhere else. So that's what I took away more this year than last year from OBICcon, was this is a service. This is something that adds value to the space, adds value to our installers, and then we also learn and get better through it too. We being a team comprised of OBIC, ART, just some overlap, some gray areas and things like that of in-house, but I thought it was great this year for sure.
Last year was a grinder. Last year, 2 years ago, the most recent one was, I'll say, is last year, but 2 years ago, we just tried to do too much. And this year, with having space on purpose in between things, gave a lot of collaboration time. And I think holistically, everybody probably enjoyed that as much as the classroom work. So while it is tactical in the class, tactical down here in the shop, spraying, learning about pumps, equipment, the application, installation, process, and procedure, which is super important. That's part of the reason why I think OBIC is doing what it's doing, is we hold to a standard and we have expectations for ourselves and our installers that are maybe different than the rest of the industry. And so the standard installation, process, procedure, it's a little bit dry and daunting, but we set expectations, we tell them how we want it done, and then we test off on it to make sure that things are being followed appropriately. But there's space in it where a guy in the field can be listening and be part of managers having conversations and helping them get better, but also, in turn, their team's getting better. And so having that space in it this year where it wasn't grinding session to session to session, I think it was really, really powerful. And so, again, how do we make it better next year, fellas?
That's That's the question, right? Never really want to try to one-up it, but if you do, that's great. You know, always try to build off of it.
Yeah.
I still think a dunk tank is a great idea.
I'm afraid of the dunk tank. People may enjoy that too much.
Yeah, it depends who's sitting on the hot seat on that one.
I'm sure it'll be me.
Dustin.
Yeah.
Oh, all right.
Absolutely.
Yeah, let's do a dunk tank.
That's I'm here for laughter. That'll be good. I'm okay. I'm in. I'm not too proud to get in a dunk tank.
The elephant, though, kind of in the room on OBICcon was one, kind of where we're sitting, and then the shop itself of where we're sitting, which kind of points to another topic of growth, right? You got the building that Dad Todd is quoted in a video from Bryan Municipal Utilities saying this is a space we'll never outgrow, to fast forward several weeks before OBICcon of let's build this space out into the OBIC shop.
Mm-hmm.
And then, let's put a podcast room up there. There's space there, but we'll get to that. What does the OBIC shop provide? What is the story there of that expansion? What does that help OBIC and everything that goes on here provide?
Yeah, I think when you have extra space, there's always opportunity for growth. And so we had the space, we took advantage of it, and I liked everybody in the same room. I liked everybody in the same side together. However, I think once we realized the value of the separation, where we can be down here spraying, we can be testing material, we can be onboarding new installers, and not have to worry about what's going on in the shop on the mechanic end and the maintenance department. And we don't have to worry about, hey, we don't have a truck available to test spray. Now with equipment in here, everything's set up. It's ideal to come in, do weeks of training if we need to with installers right here in our own house, and not have to worry about going to the field and worry about what's the weather doing, how do we get manhole rehab done when it's sub-zero and people want to be trained in the wintertime. So here we have space, we have the opportunity to help those installers and our new guys get better. So bringing on this extra space, if you will, now we have a place to build our own equipment, build trucks out, do the testing, and it's for the future of OBIC. The space is probably too small when we start adding all of the pieces and puzzles to what OBIC really can do for our installers. But it's a stepping stone in the right direction, and it'll continue to grow and evolve as we get more things inside these walls. But the training space is fantastic. Not having a space to go out and spray polyurea every day was kind of daunting, and now that it's here, we can pull a trigger in an instant once the material's warm with no questions. So I think it just helps us get better, helps our team get better, and those coming to see us, it adds to the long-term longevity of the trajectory of where OBIC is going.
Now, I do want to talk. Cole hit on a good point. We were quick to build this whole facility, the OBIC shop out. And when we talk about quick, Cole, I don't think you hit it hard enough. Like that, it was weeks.
I didn't know. I wasn't a part of it. So,
it was like, well, just the whole OBIC shop was weeks.
Yeah. That's how we do stuff.
Yes, I've learned.
Ready, fire, aim.
So we've had two instances where I've learned quick how things get done around here. One was the flagpole.
Yeah.
And for people who don't know about the flagpole story, it was Dustin came to me and said, "Hey, I'd like a big flagpole out front with a big flag. Let me know when it's ready." And did a little research, found the right flagpole, got it ordered, worked with Jeremy, who's part of SNS, another one of our companies, and left for lunch because I told him, hey, the flagpole delivered. And left for lunch, and he came back and said, okay, can you figure out where it's going to go? Came back, I met with Dustin. Where is it going to go? Oh, we've already got excavators sitting out there. There's cement coming at 3 o'clock today. What? What do you mean? It just delivered. I was trying to get a plan together. We were going to hash it out on where this thing was going to go, but nope. We and delivered at 11 a.m. and it was installed by 3 or 4 o'clock that day.
Yeah.
I had a ceremony, a flag raising ceremony that next week, which was pretty cool. But that was the first taste of, we're just go. And so the other one was the OBIC shop, and down here looking at it, getting ready for OBICcon, Dustin and I kind of running through what the plan was, and saw the space up on top of the offices, and I was like, man, that's a lot of empty space up there, wasted space. And Dustin was like, well, what do you want to do with it? And talked about a podcast room or a bigger room that we could do some video production in. And next thing I know, he's grabbing a ladder from the side, and we're up on top of the offices, planning it out, walking it out. He's measuring it with his good old foot method. It's about 14 of my steps. And so I think it was the next day the contractor was in here measuring everything out. And I was like, oh man, we're going full bore on this thing. So we had a finished room, nothing more, for no carpet even.
Hey, carpet is that's a specialty. That is that puts you over the top when you have carpet.
Yeah, OBICcon happened, and Cole's like, man, we need to do some interviews with these guys while they're all here. And it's like, all right, let's go. We brought him up here. There's wood floor, just regular plywood floor, and put the table up here and did the whole installer series.
You'd have never known unless you told on ourselves, just like
no, that's
did.
okay.
The room looked good enough.
This is behind the scenes. This is real. We're not one of those podcasts that just talks about the good stuff. We got to get into the.
Well, and a lot of points you
stuff.
make, kind of interwoven in what you're saying, is pace, which is huge here. And then too, just the figure it out, find a way mentality. That's kind of, from the outside looking in, it'd probably be easy to say, wow, they've arrived.
Yeah. I was thinking when you were telling, I'll go back to that in a second. When you were talking about like being on the wood floor, I really wish we had a picture of the old shop, because I don't think people really believe us when I tell them we started on dirt floors. We couldn't even afford a concrete when we started. But I don't think people always believe that story. But
you drove the coolest looking van I had ever seen when you're talking about first starting. Well,
yeah,
that was several years after first starting, but yeah, the coolest van.
Yeah, I've never said that I was cool, but it was functional. Got the job done.
There's a theme. The room was functional.
It's functional.
It's good enough.
It's good enough.
You got to launch. That's how we start things. That's how I think businesses are successful, is you get analysis paralysis if you think too much about things. So, yeah, it's a wood floor. Let's launch. We're using an iPhone camera, and okay, can we make it look good with that? Sure, let's go. And I think that by just doing things, that helps momentum. That helps keeps the ball rolling. And then if it doesn't work, we can switch gears fast because we don't have a ton invested. But to build this all out, yes, we were on track for it to be fresh, clean, done 100%, plenty of time before OBICcon. And then the podcast room came into our mind, and hey, why not? Let's try it. I even told the contractors, if it doesn't get done, I don't care. Let's just go this direction, see what happens. And Mother Nature helped us, because then they couldn't get outside to do their other work. Got in here, got it done, and it's functional. And today it's even better. So I'm excited to see where it all goes.
Me too. And I'm hoping that, I know we will get better at doing this whole thing.
Yeah.
This is new for me. I have a marketing background, but sometimes marketing background means you're okay at a lot of stuff, but you're not really good at one thing. And so we were joking a little bit before this that I was a carpenter, because I hung the wood paneling up yesterday for the backdrop. It looks okay. It's functional. And so I think this is going to be a really good thing when we get into it and learn about the production side. I think the content's already going to be okay. It's going to be good just because of the experience that we have at the table. You've built a few successful companies. Cole's really into personal development and developing the next generation of leaders. And I think that's what we can do with this setting. So, thank you for having foresight and your ready, fire, aim mentality on some of this stuff, because it would have normal companies, I say normal, but other companies would have taken months and possibly years to figure out something to do like this. But
That's missed opportunity if you take that long. So if it's a swing and a miss, we'll figure it out. That's what we do. We figure it out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, I guess going back to the reason that we started the podcast was, or even had the idea of the podcast was, you get a lot of knowledge from podcasts. You're a pretty avid podcast listener. Mm-hmm. I will say he's one of those out there people, I think, that listen to everything in 1.5. I had no idea how they do it and not go crazy. But, I guess go crazy in the sense of the regular world is not 1.5. And so it probably just drives you nuts that things aren't at 1.5.
Some days, yes. I just need the facts some days. I don't need a whole lot of extra stuff. But being in sales, you got to be able to paste your terminology with the person. And so sometimes I don't do that well because I like to get to the point and get things done. But not everybody delivers messages that way. And so, yeah, I listen at 1.5 because I don't want to waste any time. I just need a few nuggets of ideas or information, and that's all I'm looking for. I'm not going to regurgitate everything out of a podcast. I just need a couple nuggets to continue to cultivate new ideas and mindset.
Yeah, and that was the one thing I learned right off the bat working with Cole was he's really into podcasts and would give me little nuggets of information out of a podcast. And he's like, "Oh, man, you got to go listen to this one. You got to see this one. I heard this one here," which I was never a big podcast person before I came here, because I guess with my background being in marketing, I'm more of a visual person. If I'm going to listen to a podcast, I'm probably going to watch it, or it's going to be up on YouTube or something like that. For me to listen to a podcast, I'm probably going to be in the car or running, or I don't run. Let's not joke. Walking.
You could have kept it going though.
Or workout.
Yeah,
it's okay. I'm not gonna lie. I despise running, but working out, walking, doing something like that, I might listen to a podcast. But it's nice that you guys are really into it. It's gotten me more into it. I've learned about podcasting now, which is good. Look at where we're at. So I do want to ask though, what is your favorite podcast? What is your go-to right now? What are you listening to? Let's shout them out, because obviously we're not going to have a ton of listeners anyway. So there's not going to be a big bump in there and their stuff just yet, but let's hear it. What's your go-to right now?
Oh man. Kind of the OGs of the personal development space, your Andy Frisella, your Jocko, your Goggins. And one lately, it's probably not the most PC. Actually, it's definitely not the most PC, and it's very locker room. But you alluded to with Mr. Donald Trump in office, there's something new every second, it seems. Mm-hmm. There's a podcast called Drinkin' Bros that I get a lot of non-legacy media news sourcing, news reporting from. But definitely Jocko, Andy Frisella, Goggins, and there's a guy down in Tennessee. His name is Donald Miller. Does a podcast every Tuesday, about 20 minutes, where he'll go deep and narrow on a business tactic, and he'll have somebody on, small business owner, have somebody on, go through a snippet of what they're struggling with or what they could increase. And just dive into what that would look like if he were in their shoes today, mm-hmm. And what their action plan would be tomorrow and stuff like that. So that's probably been a big one as well. I don't know why I didn't think of that first, but
no, I think that's important, because the amount of podcasts that you listen to and that you listen to, it doesn't go wasted. Dustin does a weekly leadership meeting early in the morning. So if you're up and wanting to listen to it, that means you're wanting to be a leader because it's early. And you'll pull in nuggets from different podcasts. And I think that's important because one person isn't going to know everything there is to know.
Right.
And so for you to be able to then translate that information, Cole, you do the same thing with a lot of the kids that you work with in sports and things like that. You're transferring that information. And I'm hoping that that's what this podcast can do for the construction industry, that we can take nuggets of information that you have from other podcasts or what you've utilized and how you've grown your businesses, and transfer that into people that are trying to start up, trying to branch into a new avenue of business. I mean, we just sat on a call today about a possible new avenue for our business and how do we navigate that? What does that look like from a business, sales, marketing perspective, and where does that fit into our arsenal of things that we can offer up?
I think it's the wave of the future, and it has been, right? Like we're at the Trenchless Table, but we're maybe, I won't say we're late to the table, but there's a lot of people that have already done this, right? Nobody in this trenchless space that really has dove into what we do, why we do it, why it's important, but also from a local perspective here locally, how did we do this? Some days I ask myself that. I don't know. How did we do this? But it's repeatable. Nothing's new. We just have to rinse and repeat. Everybody can do more. It's just their desire to do it. And the challenge is that, hey, when things get tough, you got to overcome some stuff. But being able to have a conversation and maybe teach some stuff that maybe people aren't listening to the people that we listen to, but maybe they'll find us, stumble upon it, and go, hey, I like these guys. They're funny. They're fun, whatever. Whatever they say about us, hopefully they just talk a lot about it, good or bad.
Mm-hmm. And I think you hit the nail on the head, but to dive deeper, there's nothing new under the sun. Mm-hmm. You could name 17 other podcasts that talk about the exact same topics of the 6 I named, and they all package it differently. Mm-hmm. I think our hope here is to take all those concepts, ideas, and package it in a way that's going to translate to guys that are in the labor field, whether it is the trenchless. This is Trenchless Table, of course. Whether it's the trenchless technology industry at large or not, if you're an electrician, if you're a dirt mover, we got S&S in the building, if you're laying pipe and or boring, we're looking to package it in ways that contractors understand, that contractors could get something out of, because we are contractors ourselves. We are not your B2B sales. We are not your instant gratification sales team or anything of the nature. It's a long game. It's packaged way differently, and that's what I think the Trenchless Table can and ultimately, hopefully, does. And like you said, if you talk about it, good or bad, it doesn't matter as long as you're talking about it.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And then the other side of it is not just the underground infrastructure, rehab, construction. It's trades as a whole. Like, I'm a firm believer that, hey, there's avenues that you don't have to go to college, and there's no secret in this. The cat's out of the bag. It's always been out. Okay if my kids go to college. I'm okay if they don't. I think everybody has to follow their path, whatever that is, to get them to point A, from point A, end of school, graduation, to point B, life. And so if we can bring light to the trades as a whole, if it's here or somebody else, I don't really care where they end up, but they just hopefully will know after hearing some of this content is, I don't have to go to college. All right, let's figure this out.
Yeah, and I think the other part of that is how important it is to find a mentor or somebody that can lead you on whatever path you're on. Mm-hmm. I take the same approach as you do. I went to college. I could probably do my job without having to go to college. Because I learned 98% of what I do in marketing from YouTube. In design, if I have an issue, I'm looking it up on YouTube. all of those programs that you learn how to use. I will say there's some concepts that are important, but if you get in with a company at a young age, it's something you could probably fall into. It's something you could learn about. I think the most important thing nowadays is letting the next generation know how important it is to be fiscally responsible. Now, it doesn't have anything to do with college. That can come from our conversations at work. You bring that into our Thursday meetings, our leadership meetings, talking about finances.
I could stop talking about it this morning.
You were on a roll.
Somebody's going to have to go, come on, cut off. We got to go.
Yeah, land that plane. But no, I think it's important. And I appreciate that you are open about finances like that and talking about, where you've come from. And you and I have had many conversations about, building wealth for not just yourself, but your future generations and making sure your kids are responsible with that. And I think that's going to be the next wave. I think the college wave has now passed. I think in general, people see value in just knowing how to manage money and what to do with it. And of course, apps have made it so easy now to do that on the side.
You can learn anything for a skill, for a trade. It's out there. It's available. It's almost free. It can be free until you get kind of honed in, and then maybe you got to pay a little bit. Maybe you got to find a mentor or somebody, but everything's available. Like, nothing's new under the sun. It's all out there. And I don't always embrace the YouTube learning because I didn't grow up with it. I don't know how to do that well.
YouTube doesn't have a 1.5 setting.
It actually does.
I thought maybe that's why you didn't do it. I didn't. Maybe that's the reason. That's the loop.
It's there, but you can't get past the fact that like people are moving in 1.5 when
it's too fast. It looks awkward. It looks awkward. It doesn't sound weird. It just looks weird.
Too good.
I think what you're both are kind of dancing around, to back up for a second, is it's less about the education and it's way more about the mentality. And that's right up my alley. I love talking about that type of stuff and thinking about it and trying to pull that out of people. But you're able to find that yourself. Where does that mentality that we're talking about of being able to figure it out, being able to be resourceful and go to a YouTuber, find a mentor, find something from a book or a podcast and apply it, where does that come from? Is it natural?
I don't know, but sometimes it's not a positive thing. I will say that. So I have a really hard time asking people for help. Like even carrying stuff over here today, I was carrying stuff over and Doug's like, "Do you need help?" Nope, I'm good. I have a hard time.
With $15. No, I'm good.
Right, that's the thing. Like, you've seen me do it. I'll carry stuff up the stairs, and you're like, "Do you want me to help?" I'm okay. But that's the downside.
I get so in a flow working, and then you have to ask. You don't ask me, but I have to help you because you're just
Yeah.
So,
but I will say that's the other side of it. It is good to be resourceful. It's good to just figure stuff out.
Where does it come from?
I have no
How do you
idea.
get resourceful?
Probably just because I didn't grow up with a ton. You grow up, not that I wasn't provided for. That's not the case, but it definitely wasn't a silver spoon situation. I didn't go to the best schools, private schools. I didn't do all of that stuff. So, I knew I wanted certain things in life. I thought I wanted certain things in life. When I was 19, things change. You're 16 and you're like, gotta have that Lamborghini. Got it. That's my goal in life. You turn 19, things change. Now I just want to be financially free. Not that I don't enjoy coming to work, but if it's not a have to, it just feels better. If it's a want to, it's like, man, I didn't enjoy what I do and I'm going to come here because I like it. That's great.
I won't complain if you show up in a Lamborghini. Like,
no, I know.
That'd be cool. I'm all for it, actually. I hope everybody shows up in Lamborghinis. We'll put an awning up.
That's not, not even. I look at that now, and I'm such a dad now because I look at that like, man, insurance on that thing would cost me an arm and a leg.
And you know where I go? You guys, have you ever seen Mr. Deeds?
Yes. Yeah.
At
all the
the end, when he
Corvettes.
buys all the Corvettes, that's what I pictured when you said that. But
Hey, that's if XRP hits off, everybody's getting Corvettes.
Everybody's
You said
getting
that the other-
Corvettes.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
Yeah. But
White.
Has to be.
I mean,
If you look at the parking lot, everyone's got a white SUV or a
Probably.
white truck. So
I don't know though, but to be on brand with our channel sponsor, OBIC,
yeah.
we want to thank our channel sponsor, OBIC Products. Is your infrastructure leaking profits or, well, leaking anything? OBIC Products delivers leak stop and linings that last. OBIC's spray-applied, fast-curing polyurea protects water and wastewater systems, from manholes to massive tanks. If you're looking for a solution that will last for generations and is backed by a 10-year warranty, visit obicproducts.com. Once again, that's OBICproducts.com.
I'll take an orange one.
To be orange. It's got to be orange.
I wouldn't complain.
Hey, I'm trying to get one for the marketing. I think that's a marketing write-off. Somebody that's a tax person, let us know if that.
Cardone would write it off.
Airplanes and Lamborghinis that are orange. Can we talk about that?
Yeah, let's talk about
if we can get a road off, I'm all for it.
Yeah,
If it's really heavy, you might have to go to a G-Wagon. But if it's over 6,000 pounds,
that's true.
It's a write-off.
so I've heard.
Yes.
It has to be orange, though, because the orange, in theory, bought it.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, we tangent there, but I think that's where that comes from. Dustin, I think you have a pretty similar story to mine.
Yeah. So I was thinking about this, right? How does it come to being? I don't know. To answer that honestly.
great answer.
It is 100% gray. I don't know how it developed or when the trigger happened. But at some point in time, the trigger goes off, and maybe it's the realization that as an entrepreneur, I'm not super good at a lot of things. I'm not tactical in finishing things. I'm conceptually, I can see it, I can dream it, and then I need people to get it over the goal line. And so maybe I realized that about myself. I need people to end up doing these things because I don't know how to do stuff. Now I can get things done if I have to, but it's evolved. I think when you're young and you grow up without a lot, you have to be resourceful. You have to figure it out. You grow up, and for me, it was, hey, if you want more, you got to go get it. And that was fine. And I learned a lot of lessons along the way. And then it just evolved into, hey, your life goal becomes about growing people. And once I embraced what I believe my life goal is, that's the sole focus now. So it takes a while to get there, to figure that part out. But how do you get from point A to point B? I wasn't smart enough to go to school, and I wasn't good enough at sports to get a scholarship, so I knew college wasn't my path, and you better figure it out or you're going to have to go down the same path that everybody else is. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just, hey, do you want more?
Mm-hmm.
You got to go figure it out. It's not in textbooks to do what we do.
And something, it's not overly sexy, but the figuring it out, it's a lot of it probably, not to put words in your mouth, was just showing up the next day.
Yeah, because some days suck, and some days are hard, and those days make you better. The hard stuff makes you better, and it's not when things are easy, you're not learning anything. When you mess up and you fail and you do things wrong, you learn really quickly. Well, that costs money, or something didn't go your way and you had a bad experience. Well, you can repeat it or you can fix it and you can make it better the next time. And so showing up, working hard, being industrious is really the key to all of it. And then just not giving up when it does get hard. And I think I talked a lot about that today on our leadership call. Was we all have these things. There's something that goes before us that we have to travel those waters that are hard, something that causes us to have challenges in life, and then all of a sudden you have to either figure out, am I going to let it win, or am I going to figure it out to get to the other side? And that moment of pain, however long that is, it's just all it is. It's a moment. It's not your whole entire life unless you let it consume you to be that. So got to get through whatever the hard thing is to get to the other side, and then hopefully you learned and you moved on, and boy, that sucked. I don't want to do that again. Mm-hmm. No clue if that actually answered your question or not.
I forgot what the question was. Oh, yeah, it did. I would say it did. Yeah. There was no good answer because I have it too.
Yeah.
And I would say mine is, I had an answer. I would say mine is literally just from observing those around me. Because I don't think there's highly intellectual or talented, superiorly talented people around me from my upbringing. But I do believe it was people that unequivocally woke up every single day and showed up, went to work, and never cried about it. And then I woke up at a night as 19, 20 years old and kind of realized, oh, I am that now too. So sweet.
Let's
what do
get
I
it done.
do with it? Yeah. So
Yeah, I will attest to that too. My dad, he was always so proud of these just random things he would get from work. Like, you were here 10 years, 20 years, we just did service awards for us. And he was always so proud of that stuff. And it just goes to that type of work ethic. I mean, he was the guy that was there a half hour before his shift and never was the first one out the door. And I think that's probably where I got a lot of that stuff, like just wanted to get it done, wanted to do it better. He worked in a factory for a long time. I worked with him when I was in college in the factory. I learned then that I didn't want to work in a factory all the time. There, for me, I'm not good with assembly line work. If you guys have seen the I Love Lucy episode when they're making the chocolates, that is me. It stresses me out to no end when I have to get something and do it repetitively and quick enough that the machine doesn't start beeping and causing a scene and everybody's looking about, what you're doing over there. So that was not me. That's not what I wanted to do. So my option was business, right? The other side of it. Now I will say I enjoy, I've worked in companies that had factories attached with them. And I didn't like being the office person. Because in marketing, you often have to go out to the shop and get pictures and, work alongside them or do something. And, they were always like, we'll never see you again. You're only out here one time. We'll see you for training and then never again. But I always liked to be that person that went out and did hands-on stuff and tried. And I think that's to, bring it to a close here. I think that that's probably ingrained in me from my dad, just like you grew up watching, your parents do that too. And your dad's still working.
Yeah.
Too much.
Trying to, yeah. If there's one reference I thought I wasn't going to hear today, it was an I Love Lucy reference.
Dude, we'll pull.
So,
listen.
well, good on you.
You never know. Never know. You know what? If there was podcasting back there, she'd kill it. I tell you what. I'd listen to it. So to get into business here and a little back on track, we've been growing like crazy. And that comes with good, bad, and ugly. So, Dustin, from your perspective, I'd like to know what a good, bad, and ugly looks like from the growth of a business.
How long is this podcast supposed to be?
I mean,
started at 5 a.m.
It's we aimed to do one episode, but if this gets split into two, I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what we did. Thanks for joining us at the Trenchless Table for this episode. We hope you guys will join us for part 2, where we talk about business, how we got here, and the adversities that some businesses have to go through to become successful.